Welcome to the Cannabis Equipment News Podcast.
Hi, I'm David Manti, and welcome to a new episode of the Cannabis Equipment News Podcast. With me this week is David Loos, co-founder of the Frontline Bud Foundation and founder of Farmer Dave's Consulting in Minnesota. How are you doing today, David?
Doing great. Thanks for having me on, man.
Yeah, really appreciate you coming on, man. I'm really looking forward to this. But before we get started, please make sure to like, share, and subscribe to the podcast. You could also help us out a lot by leaving the podcast a positive review on whatever platform you use. If you want to email the podcast, you could reach me at david@cannabisequipmentnews.com with email the podcast in the subject line. You could also subscribe to our daily newsletter. Make sure you get it delivered to your inbox first. David, with the podcast, I really like to start with a little bit of background. So what was it that brought you to cannabis?
Well, a couple different things. So, because originally I was actually kind of like opposed to cannabis. In middle school, I like kind of went through like the DARE program and stuff. Kind of fell for that propaganda line. In high school, I had some other friends that kind of introduced me to it in my like later years, like junior and senior year. And I felt like it kind of helped me a lot with my ADHD. And I was already a pretty good student at the time because I was in like the AVID program, IB courses. And honestly, like the fact that it didn't deter my grades, but actually kind of helped, just kind of like reinforced that for me. So like, yeah, my first go around was probably like late high school, and then carried that through into college in my early years. I had to take a little bit of a break from it, obviously for my service. So I was away from it for a few years and then kind of slowly got back into it again, like still just as a consumer. And then it wasn't until 2022 that I actually like got into it commercially, like as a job kind of deal. So
What was it that drew you to volunteering for service?
well, for me, I have a lot of service in my family. My cousin actually just retired a couple weeks ago from the 82nd Airborne. He was in for like 20 years. My grandpa was in the Korean War. Um, College benefits did help a little bit too, to be honest, but family was a big thing for me too with that. So,
When
yeah.
was the first time that you realized, you were using cannabis medicinally?
Uh, Honestly, it probably wasn't until I got back into it after the military because like in high school, I mean, I guess you could kind of say that's medicinally because I kind of used it in an academic sense, but I didn't think about that probably until later on. Probably like, I guess really until I did start working with it because I work for a medical cannabis company. So I mean that kind of just reinforces it for me. So yeah, I'd say probably not till 2022 because up until that point I was pretty big on like the recreational sense of it, I guess you could say.
Did you have any hesitations getting into the industry, or was it, were you looking to jump in, both feet, going all in?
I was looking to jump in because 2022, that's when they added a whole bunch of jobs in because that was when Minnesota added flower to the program.
Mm.
Because prior to that, they could only make like edibles, concentrates, or not concentrates, edibles, pills, topicals. And so once they were able to like sell flower, they added a whole bunch of jobs. And I saw them pop up. And I mean, obviously, as a consumer, I was like, man, I might as well give it a shot. Because like that's the thing too, like cannabis has given me a lot of purpose in my career because like prior to that I was kind of like I guess you might say job hopping, like kind of just maybe stay at a job for like a year or two. And yeah, I haven't been looking back since now that I'm here. So
Is it, what part of it gives you purpose? Is it, anything specific with the plant, or is it just, your love for the industry in general?
um I think it's a little bit of both. I mean, like I'm a longtime consumer, so like I always have love for the plant, but I feel like the biggest thing like purpose wise is just realizing like it made me realize that like I really can do this. And I feel like in a way it kind of reinforced a lot of life lessons too. Like you got to find something that you like and go really hard at it. And I feel like that's really what cannabis made me realize because like I have a college degree and I was working in some finance jobs, but like I just wasn't into it and I couldn't give myself fully to it. And cannabis made me realize like, dude, I will give every part of my day to this.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know what it is exactly, man. I think it all just kind of clicks for me. Like I said, I'm a consumer and I think it all just kind of evolved from there.
Are you drawn primarily to the cultivation side of the industry?
Yeah, primarily. To be honest with you, I'm trying to stay away from retail just because, like, I haven't been in cannabis retail, but like in my past retail jobs, like at Whole Foods, I'm not big on like customer interactions.
Yeah.
So yeah, mostly just cultivation. I'm trying to stay on that side.
I always like that part of retail. Like I always like the kill them with kindness. Just like the craziest customers would come to you and it's just like, "Oh, how are you doing today?"
I did my years with that. I can't do it anymore, man.
Oh no. No, it's I can't go back to it. It's like some of my friends' kids are getting into it and it's just like, "Oh, it's like a rite of passage." If anything, it gives you a better respect for like what people are going through. Like they're having a bad day too, sometimes and it helps you maybe understand the situation a little bit better.
Yeah, that's true. And I mean, cannabis is probably different too, you know.
Yeah.
People are probably a little happier to get it, but who
Yeah.
knows?
Well, it is. I mean, it's a different experience at that like sort of point of service, right? Where there's, if it's a first time buyer, there are those nerves, there's the uneducated buyers that want to ask questions but don't even know the questions to ask. And it really like is kind of a testament to like the bud tenders that really know what they're doing and, help a lot of people out every day.
For sure. And I mean, regulations kind of affect that too, because like the company that I work for, like Vireo, we have 8 retail stores, but since it's medical, like all the orders have to be placed online and then just picked up. So
Hmm.
there isn't like a ton of I mean, you can interact with them before you place your order to get some feedback, which is nice. Like, don't get me wrong about that part of it. But like, I'm excited to see like some real more direct interactions coming in the store, like taking some time to like ask people how they want to feel. Like, do you
Hmm.
want to get couch locked? Are you looking for something to like have with your coffee?
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
Are you still working with Vireo?
Yeah, yeah. I'm in their veg crew. I started in production. So like at first I was doing post-harvest, like bucking, trimming, packaging, labeling, pre-rolls. And then I went to the flower crew about like a year in. I got promoted there. And then I just moved to veg like 3 months ago. So
Okay.
that's been fun to kind of like round out the whole cycle, if you will.
Well, and talking about the industry giving you a sense of purpose, did you find that, you know, were you kind of appropriately elevated given your work ethic? And, is it an industry with upward potential?
Um, there's a lot of nuance to that. I would say for myself personally, I'm definitely grateful for the opportunities I've had because with Minnesota being kind of like a small market because it's just us and Green Thumb, there's a lot of demand for people who are putting themselves out there and taking the time to educate themselves and stuff like that. It's really dependent on individual effort, I feel like, because like I'll be honest with you, like a lot of my coworkers aren't always like interested in upward mobility. I see a lot of like not a ton of like retention and some of that's like a two-way street for sure. Don't get me wrong. But I think for basically what I'm trying to say is like for those who are willing to put themselves out there and get themselves educated, I think that there is a lot of opportunity because like with me in Minnesota, like as far as like local people, like there's people that have moved back from out of state and they have, more experience than me, so like more power to them. But as far as like local guys, it's just pretty much us and Green Thumb, whoever's here. So
When you first got into the industry, what were your first impressions? Did it disappoint you at first? Did it exceed expectations?
I would say it exceeded because it was fun. I remember like we had just gotten to doing some like bucking and trimming, and it was like a huge harvest because we have each flower room for us is 13,000 square feet, 800 dry pounds. So like I had never seen that amount of cannabis before. And I remember like that was like I think my first words to them was like, Dude, I've never seen this much weed before. Um, but overall, man, like it's been fun because I've gotten to learn a lot about like practices to keep around, practices to get rid of and improve, a little bit of both those things.
So, in your opinion, what are some of those practices or SOPs that people should keep around, and what are some of the practices that maybe should go along the wayside?
Well, one thing that I'm is always off the top of my head that I tell people is don't skim on Capex because like especially with your facility, like for us, we had shade curtains installed that helped out a lot with humidity. But prior to that, we had struggled a lot with like mold occasionally because of the humidity, because Minnesota summers, greenhouses, you put all that together. So we had to upgrade a lot of like our shade curtains. We had to upgrade our fans and our lavers. So like make sure that you know your numbers too, like how much CFM you're getting, how much airflow. Don't skim on CapEx. That's a big thing.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, that's the biggest thing off the top of my head.
I mean, that's and that one's a really hard one just because trying to find the resources that are available. So not skimping on CapEx, but what are some of the things as you learned, were there things that maybe was standard practice initially and kind of went along went away as people found a new way of doing things?
Yeah, I would say so. Like in production, I think that was a big thing because originally, like our trimming, we used to use two machines like put together. And when it got down to the end of it, that would kind of beat it up a lot because machine trimming can get very excessive if you're not careful. So after we kind of like fine tune and had someone from Mobius come in and actually like run it for us, all this kind of stuff, we decided to go with the one.
Mm,
And the bud post trim actually turned out a lot better. Like you could see the trichome morphology wasn't as like damaged. So that was one thing that we changed just off
o-
the top of my head for sure.
okay. So what is the Frontline Bud Foundation?
Yeah, so that's the nonprofit that I launched recently. And basically that was inspired by kind of what I touched on earlier is like finding purpose in cannabis like as a career. So I've come to find that I really like working with vets in cannabis. Obviously I am one myself, so I'm a little biased, but it's like every time I run into one, it's usually good, like there I feel like it brings a lot of professionalism to it, a lot of good work ethic because like every place is different, but people complain a lot about like work ethic and various things in the industry. I feel like that's not really something you got to worry about. So anywho, the point of the foundation is to educate veterans and service members, so that includes like police and firefighters, EMT as well, to grow cannabis at home and then prepare them for jobs in the industry. And the first part of that is that we're developing a course online on our website that's divided up by like the home grow, and then it'll be like different career paths. So like if you want to be in cultivation, we'll have one for that. Extraction, bud tending, quality control, wholesaling. And our ultimate goal, we're ironing out the details on the second part of it, is to actually like have those who go through it go to an actual grow and do like plant work, or go to like a store, do like bud tending for a day or like a couple hours, whatever. Um, but we're hoping to like pair that all together and just yeah, get more vets into space.
I mean, I know that you're biased, but are vets a more reliable, a better worker? Are they more suited to the working in the cannabis industry?
It seems that way. Because I run into it quite a bit myself. Like we got a couple at Vera, like our janitor, he was in the Navy for a while. One of my really good business partners was a ranger, and he helps like design grows and like provide equipment for them, and he loves going to them and checking them out. And I feel like there's definitely something like therapeutic for it. And I guess the fact that they're just already professional people, it just kind of naturally pairs together.
So you're already growing hundreds of thousands of pounds at work. Are you still growing at home?
Uh, I I'm not currently. I was for a while, but I actually just moved a couple months ago, so I haven't gotten around to it yet. But for the last couple of years I was, because I started growing at home in 2023 when they legalized it for the recreational purposes. So I grew for about 2.5 years at home, and
Okay.
I plan to. I'm going to be moving again next year. Once I get around to that, I'm definitely going to be growing at home again. But for now, it's just all big scale stuff.
I mean, did you find that it came naturally to you?
Yeah, I mean, in my home grow for sure, because like for me, it's kind of like I saw it as like I'm a big consumer. I know what it takes to grow the good stuff. And I just became obsessed with like optimizing for everything, like my
Hmm.
VPD, getting my PPFD right, getting my CO2 to match that. Like for me, it was like a big learning thing. And so I feel like, and I guess, yeah, as a vet too, like it's just very therapeutic, you know?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Well, and like in any industry, you can get like scope creep, right? Where at some point during a project, you just got to be like, all right, it's good enough. Like, do you struggle with that? Where like, you have this perfectionism, but you're just like, you know what, this one's just gotta go, and we'll start anew.
Yeah. I think one thing that kind of helps with that. So like I think one thing I would say is like in my personal harvest, usually I would run like 2 or 3 cultivars at a time because I'd have like 8 plants total, the legal limit.
Hmm.
And some of them would turn out better than others. So that's kind of how I reassured myself in situations like that. Like this one, maybe it's not like up to my par, but I got this one that really is. And then I just need to kind of bridge that gap over time, you know?
Well, and going back to your comments about capex, what is some of the equipment in your day to day that you couldn't live without?
Like on the commercial side,
Yeah.
uh, well, as far as like big scale equipment, I mean, we definitely got our D hues. We got our shade curtains. We got our lighting. Uh, it's always good to have a good pair of like shears and keep those
Yes.
sharp. Make sure they're not dull.
Hmm.
Um, Trying to think of some other equipment. Because we use disposable pots for every harvest, so we don't do a ton of
Oh, gotcha.
manual stuff with that. Yeah.
Okay. Um, well, I was curious because so you also started. You're the founder of Farmer Dave's Consulting. So, what are some of your thoughts with that new venture and how you look to help the Minnesota market?
Yeah, so that was actually kind of an interesting endeavor that's come about, I guess you would say naturally, because like personally, and I guess I found this with a lot of other people too, is that like we haven't had a good experience with consultants. So like I was very hesitant to become a consultant, but I've had so many people reach out because they see my content on LinkedIn, trying to be very educational. And again, knowing that there's someone local that has done this and does this on a day-to-day basis, so as people started asking me, I was like, okay, there's some money to be made in this. So I started putting together a menu, and as I did that, another like really nice thing that came together with it is that I had a couple different partners reach out to help me with that, because I personally haven't had experience like designing and like providing equipment, like getting things started. Like I've just hopped into an existing grow. So I had Elevated Equipment reach out. I'm an affiliate for them. And then Mike Bruno with Golden Ocean Solutions. They both do design, equipment, all that kind of stuff, which is really nice because essentially I can have them come in and help design. And they're really good at what they do too, which is nice because in an emerging market, you really want to make sure you get it right the first time. That's going to save you the most money, going to make you the most money. And basically, I'm coming in post build to kind of like establish those SOPs, make sure the environment is all automated, get the team trained in, develop a genetic library, get your schedule all linked up, get your tracking, your inventory and compliance. And yeah, so like Minnesota, I'm mostly focusing on cultivators again with that. So like there's been a lot of cultivators that I'm definitely in the midst of helping. And it's funny too, because like one really nice thing with that too is because of Minnesota's social equity, I've been working with a lot of veterans too that are licensed applicants. Like I have at least like a handful I can name right now that I'm working with that are all vets. It's pretty dope.
No, I mean, that's really cool. Like, I've always appreciated the cannabis community and how it can come together to kind of try and, you know, most often anyways, prop each other up. I mean, every once in a while there's some drama, but I mean, that's
Oh
everywhere.
yeah. Oh yeah, for sure.
So okay. So I understand this because like I have had similar experiences with consultants in the past, right? Where, a friend of mine and we always joke about how, we're going to leave this industry and start our own smoke and mirrors consultancy because it's the easiest thing ever, like you just need a really good presentation and you can buy 9 months. But like, so how do you hope to like prevent yourself from like falling into those similar trappings of becoming sort of a quote unquote stereotypical consultant?
Yeah, I think the big thing for me is that I really want to focus on the results that I can give them and
Yeah.
focus it on them rather than me. And I've been lucky that I have good mentors that have been telling me stuff like that. Like I've heard stuff like that before, but I haven't like thoroughly thought it through. And luckily, like Jason from Elevated, he's awesome. He's been telling me all about stuff like that. And like, focus on the results and what you can get them. And another big thing with that too, that I want to distinguish myself as a consultant is making sure that I'm not taking on too much work in any kind
Mm.
of work. Because Jason, he's worked in several other states, a lot of other markets, and he said that, he's personally kind of like hooked people up with like consulting that he did designs for. And then they kind of like took on too many projects, signed too many contracts. Now they're calling him like, we need to get a hold of this dude. We need to get him in, but he's not answering our calls and stuff like that. So like making sure that you are making yourself available for what you're going to do, you
Yeah.
know?
You know, Going back to the birth of the Minnesota market, it seems like when a new state comes online, I mentioned this many times before, but it's like they always take the 80% of something good in another state, and then they throw like that little 20% wrinkle to make it their own. Do you think, were you encouraged? Did Minnesota get it right when it launched its market, and how has it evolved?
Kind of. I mean, there's a lot of nuance in that answer for sure. I would say one thing that they got wrong for sure is the timing. They should have had that much much sooner rolled out. But that said, I do feel like they got right the social equity part because, like I was saying, like veterans. Because one thing that I thought about that's been kind of fun with the consulting stuff is like I'm running into like a lot of veterans, a lot of like middle class people, and from what most other people tell me, like if I was consulting in other markets, it'd be a lot of like MSOs and corporations, which is fine, but it's just a different experience. It's a little more fun, a little more personal.
No,
Uh,
that is. Do you think because there's been some issues in other states with like social equity applicants surviving the market? Do you think that some of these people you're working with can not only survive but thrive in the Minnesota market and potentially beyond?
I think they can. I think a big distinguisher is like making sure that if you don't know what you're doing, you have someone on your team who does, because I think there's a lot of potential in the Minnesota market. And one thing that I always tell people to kind of reinforce this, and this is public information too, because we're a publicly traded company, is like our CEO has been buying up a lot of stock recently.
Mm.
There's been a lot of inside buying. One of our other big investors was posting it, and it was kind of funny because he was posting it for a couple days straight. He's like, "Man, this dude has been buying up like every day." So for me, that really enforces like if the money's here, I know that there's a lot of potential. It's just a matter of capitalizing on it.
Mm.
Now that said, like the micro licenses, the mom and pops, yeah, they for sure have some challenges. I think right now, in addition to like zoning, supply is a big thing because it's my understanding that the tribes are not ready to supply micros yet.
Yeah.
I could be wrong about that because I'm not in contact with every single one of them.
Yeah.
But the ones that I am, I have not gotten any follow up, and people who I have sent have said that yeah, there's no follow up. So, but I understand it. And this is I'm getting to like why it's hard for mom and pops is that there's a lot of vertical integration.
Mm.
So like the tribes can supply themselves and they can supply 8 stores off tribal land, and then like Virya and Green Thumb, we already have 8 stores that we supply. So it's kind of like what incentive do they have to supply other stores? And here's my next point too, is that a lot of the micros and the mom and pops, and this is a smart strategy if they can work it out, is that they're starting in retail because it's cheaper and it's a little bit easier, and then they want to use whatever profits they get from the retail to fund their own cultivation eventually. So I think if they can figure out supply
Mm.
and meet cultivators who can come online quick and provide quality, I think those people will win.
Okay. What you had mentioned about the timing of the beginning of the Minnesota market. Could you describe a little bit more what you're talking about in terms of how the timing wasn't as great?
Um, well, just that there was so many delays because it was legalized recreationally in 2023, and that was like the summertime, and it's like we're two full years later now, 2025, and technically we still don't really have like we the tribes are legal, so you could go to like a tribal store.
Mm-hmm.
And they or actually I should clarify that they did open up some off tribal stores, but even those are up north too.
Mm.
So 2 years is a long time to wait. I
Yeah.
I can't remember how long New York took. And part of that was lawsuits. So it's like I try to be understanding of the OCM because you can't really control lawsuits to a certain extent. I know that there was delays with that, but overall, I still feel like it could have been shortened
Yeah.
somehow. Yeah.
I mean, what do you think about how the state opened it up and then, with this partnership with the tribes?
Um, it's been interesting. A lot of people are frustrated by it because, like I said, there hasn't been much supply for the micros, and then like as far as like very own GTI, there hasn't been. We still don't have our what they call the med combo license, so we don't even know when we can wholesale.
Mm.
So I guess some people would say that they kind of put the forget that saying, cat before the bag or whatever that saying
Oh,
is.
the cart before the horse.
Yeah, yeah. So I guess I would agree with that assessment. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, what are your thoughts on interstate commerce? Some people talk about how interstate commerce, being able to transfer it across state lines legally, would really kind of tank some of those mom and pops or the mid-size grows in states like Minnesota. Are you in favor of opening up the market? And do you think if it's open that Minnesota cultivators can survive?
Yeah, so this has actually been a very prescient thought for me recently too. So personally, I am in favor of interstate commerce just because I believe that it's inevitable anyways. You might as well kind of get used to it. That being said, yes, I believe that it will impact a lot of the mom and pops. I mean, as with any emerging market, you always have consolidation. And I mean, with that kind of timeline, that's hard to say, but all things considered, I do think some can still survive because I think there will always be a market for indoor. So as long as like a mom and pop can really niche down and have like a boutique kind of store, like and other people have been talking about this too. They liken it to like a craft beer, like a craft
Yeah.
brewery.
Yeah.
And
Craft
I
cannabis.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, like, I'm not super plugged into like craft breweries. I've heard they've been kind of hurting a little bit. I guess maybe part of that I've heard is also because of cannabis sales.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think that there is a model for the craft boutique ones, but it will affect them for sure because yeah, everything I know points to that like Cali and Oregon have the best quality. They can produce it cheap because they have the best climate for it. I feel like that's pretty indisputable. So at some point, yeah, but the boutiques will make it. They just need
Yeah.
to niche down. Yeah.
So, as you had mentioned previously, you are prolific on LinkedIn. Was that a conscious decision to, have your perspective put out there on social media? And did you recognize when you transitioned from, you know, uh, David Loos posting his opinion on LinkedIn to cannabis industry thought leader?
Man, I'm trying to. I honestly don't even remember when I started posting consistently because, like, I think what's funny too, because I think I first started getting back on LinkedIn when I started at Vireo in 2022 because prior to that, like I said, I was kind of job hopping, so I wasn't like huge on it. And obviously it's a big career networking thing. So when I started, it was probably like I post every now and again just to kind of like let people know, hey, I'm in the industry now. Um, and like when I first started, I was pretty shy because I mean, I was always a consumer, but I never grew it. So I didn't want to like overstep the people who literally have been doing it for decades, you know? Um, but I think I started posting like regularly, probably like 2 years in, like probably 2024. Cause like I said, I went to cultivation in 2023. And that's when I really feel like I was like starting to get confident, like, okay, I have some knowledge and experience now. Let me share a little bit of it. But I think over the past year is when I started going like every day. And then, what's been fueling it too is like getting compliments and then just getting like recognition from people. Like I've had people be like, yeah, dude, like I've literally thought about your posts and incorporated some of that advice like into my business plan. And for me, that's super gratifying. That's like the best compliment I can get.
No, that's extremely rewarding. For people that are using the platform to grow themselves professionally, do you have any pointers or tips as to kind of, uh, you know, see through the noise a little bit? Just because it seems like LinkedIn is getting to become a place where, their opinion seems to be emerging more so than fact sometimes. And, we're maybe help people pass the sniff test a little bit on LinkedIn.
Yeah, I feel like it's kind of one of those like quality over quantity things. Like, don't accept every connection request you get. And I feel like that's getting tough in today's environment too, because I mean, there's some guys I follow that are like super knowledgeable and they're still kind of eventually wade into the waters of political stuff. But I guess it probably helps to use filters too.
Yeah.
But I would say try to look for people who are actually like doing what they're saying.
Mm.
Because I guess that's another thing with consulting too, is like make sure that they're actually like they've done it before, not that they're just talking about it, you know?
Yeah.
Like I always try to follow people who post a lot of like pictures and videos like inside the grow, like
Mm-hmm.
Colin Clark, Michael Navito. I follow them. They do a really good job of that. So I would say try to look for people who like post like actual stuff that they're doing. That's very helpful.
So because it's top of everybody's mind, it's top of everyone's mind in the entire nation. What do you make of the glass house controversy and what's happening ever since the raid out there?
Oh yeah. Oh man, that's super unfortunate. I didn't look into the full details of it. I'd heard that there was some like underage children working there though, and that's really terrible. And see that's the thing too with labor that gets really tough too is that, you know, I'm assuming they probably weren't paying super good wages. And I understand because, COGS get to be a lot and taxes. I think a lot of like I think a lot of that kind of stuff is going to come down to taxes too and like regulations, making sure that COGS are cheap so that people are investing in the right labor and doing the right practices and not resorting to hiring underage minors.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Sorry, I just wanted to get your perspective on it because it feels like everybody's talking about it right now. Everyone's got a take when it comes to Glass House.
Oh yeah, no worries. I mean, man, to be honest, like living in Minnesota, I feel like so far removed from that. I mean, I definitely heard and saw about it, but
Yeah.
I mean, in general, yeah, it's definitely a pretty sad issue with ice and all that. So,
Well, transitioning back to Minnesota, I always like to ask people sort of from the 10,000-foot view, what is your take on the current state of the Minnesota market? How healthy the market is and where it's heading.
so I feel like we're really primed for a boom. Like right now, there's a lot of chatter, there's a lot of excitement, but there's nothing like concrete or official yet. Like
Hmm.
we did have a couple of the first licenses go out. But again, we really need to figure out our like sourcing and our supply. Um, I think one way or another that's going to get sorted out. The worst case scenario is that tribes just keep supplying themselves. Same thing with Vireo, and then people just have to wait for the other cultivators to come online, which will be, at least 5 or 6 months for most of them, if not more. Um, but there's a lot of excitement because like CannaCon's coming up. Um, I'm doing a lot of like networking events soon ahead of CannaCon because there's going to be a lot of people in town for that. And I feel like again because of the licensing structure and the unlimited micros, there's a lot of excitement because people know that there's a lot of like business to be drummed up with that. So I would say there's a lot of excitement, but even more to come. There's a big boom,
Okay.
crackling, ready for a boom.
When is CannaCon?
It's August 8th and 9th. And
Okay.
yeah, it's in St. Paul. So
Okay. Well,
yeah.
I'll have to check back in to see how the event is. That we're not able to make it to that one, but I'd really like to hear your thoughts from the show.
Yeah, I'll definitely follow up with you after for sure.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for taking the time today, man. But before we get out of here, I want to make sure, see if there's anything else that we might have left out. Anything in particular you want to make sure that the cannabis equipment audience either knows about yourself or your work in the industry?
I guess a couple last notes I would just say is try to hire vets wherever you can, and don't skip on Capex. Design your stuff right from the get-go.
I think those are two that a lot of people can get on board with. So thank you again. I appreciate it.
Yeah, of course, man. Thank you.
All right. Well, before we get out of here, please make sure to like, share, and subscribe to the podcast. You could also help us out a lot by leaving the podcast a positive review on whatever platform you use. If you want to email the podcast, you can reach me at david@cannabisequipmentnews.com with email the podcast in the subject line. You can also subscribe to our daily newsletter. Make sure you get it delivered to your inbox first. For David Loos, co-founder of Frontline Bud Foundation and the founder of Farmer Dave's Consulting, I'm David Manti. This is the Cannabis Equipment News Podcast, and we will see you next week.
Welcome to the Cannabis Equipment News Podcast.